Hey, good evening to everybody. Debbie, you want to know who Paul is? Paul was a good friend of mine. When I used to drive a truck, look at my hair. Sorry, everybody. I'm Jennifer Duck. I put some cream in my face and my hair, and I just let it rip. But Paul was a very, very good friend. We go back a long time. I met Paulie back in 2002 when I was getting off the road driving a truck and started driving a medical van. And I took my CB radio into his CB shop, and everything is history. I laid my radio very calmly. Of course, I had a couple of caffeine drinks, so I was jittery coming off the road, and you could just hear a pin drop in that shop. Laid my radio down on the counter and said, "Hey, you ponytail man." And he swung by, turned around, I could still see him with his hat on and his arm in a sling and his long ponytail. He said, "Yeah, woman?" And I said, "Oh no, another damn Yankee." And that's how I met Paul. Paul, we were good friends for years. And when I got off the road driving truck and then started hauling people, I would sleep out in my medical van, and Paul and Hawkeye, Paul owns a CB shop up there. Breaker 19, CB, like that kind, And I would park close to the CB shop or next to his because I knew they would check on me. And then Paul got a whiff of that. He'd come tap on my window about 3 in the morning. And I think I jumped about yay high. And he said, "You can't sleep out here in your van." I said, "I've been doing it for a while." He said, No. You come in my shop. I mean, not the shop, into the house." I said, "I can't sleep in your house." He said, "Sure you can." And that's how we became friends. Well, my old boss had me running 12, 14-hour days. By the time I got home doing a run, I'd have to get something to eat, go, instead of coming all the way back down here to the river, turn around, get a few hours sleep, go back out. Paul would let me stay at his place. So we became really close friends. I mean, really close. Paul had a motorcycle accident many years ago, and he's paralyzed from his right arm all the way down below and everything. And there was no sex involved, if that's what you're all thinking. Nothing like that. He was just a good friend. We did things together. We would shop together. We drove each other crazy like we were brother and sister. We were good friends. And when I had my episode of Nick falling off the RV head first, well, the ladder fell over. And then me losing my job because all the stress of everything, Paulie says, "We're going on a road trip." I'm like, "There's no way in hell we're going on a road trip. I can't remember how to drive out of the driveway." So he let me drive his car. We went everywhere. And we were walking around, make the story short, we were walking around in Tractor Supply one year. And I told him, I said, "I'll call you tomorrow. I know you're going to be home, so I'll call you." And I did. And I called him all day Sunday. I called the shop and I said, you need to break down the door. Something's wrong with Paul. Because usually we talk almost every day. Well, his brother went through a window. Paul was laying on the bed paralyzed. I was like, oh, hell no. I got dressed. I told Nick, something's wrong with Paul. I don't even remember flying through Linden, Louisville. By the time I hit the interstate, I had 911 at his house. Well, I got there, and all you could see, he's on the bed. He had a water bed, just a frame and the bed, and he's just covered in blood. And I'm like, Paul, I think it's time for you to go to the ER. I mean, to the hospital. No, I'm not going. I said, oh, yes, you are, buddy. You don't say no to me. Nope. The ambulance man said he can't. I said, he's going. Just get him there. Got him in the ambulance. And, of course, he was all bloody and everything. And I told the ambulance driver, he says, it was in the wintertime, too. It was around December. And the ambulance got him to the VA. And, oh, I'm sorry. Oh, hold on. Oh, got him to the VA. And the ambulance driver says, now, you're not going to be able to catch up with me, and you know where the VA is. And I'm like, he doesn't know me, does he? I was right behind him. When he pulled in, I pulled in. He looked at me and said, where are you from? I said, I'm a Yankee. I'm from up north. What do you expect? We drive like this. I stayed with Paulie the whole time he was in the VA. Then his sister came, Chris, and I didn't know how to fill out them paperwork because I'm not a very good reader. And her husband said, don't sign anything. And I'm like, really? I said, that's it. She said, well, my son wanted me to come down for Christmas. Of course, I'm worried about Paul up there. And we left. I left Chris with him, his own sister. And we stayed Christmas Day, came home. My best friend was in the hospital. Fox, he's with Polly. I got their ashes together. Fox and I used to drive medical van together. He was another crazy person, just like Paul. And Marcia, his wife, called me and said, Fox just died on Christmas Day. I'm like, I was not in the right mind anyways, with Paul being there and Fox being in the hospital next to, they were both in the VA together. And I told Nick, we just got to go home. He said, okay. So we came home. I went right back up to the VA. And then the next day when I got there, I stayed with him till he came here. Well, he didn't really come here. He went to Parsons. And I was Paul's next of kin. I didn't know that. That's how he set it up. I looped her joke. He has family, but he didn't want nobody else to take care of him except me. I wonder why. Oh my God. Oh my goodness. So Yeah, he told me, he says, I have bladder cancer. So that's where all that blood came from. I said, okay. And the VA goes, where do you want to send him? And his sister was standing right there. Oh, Dickson. I said, no, bring him down here to Parsons. She looked at me and I said, you didn't want to help him. Nobody from his side of the family would help him. I brought him down here to Parsons, brought the dog in with me, Missy. And before Paulie could come home here, I had everything I needed for Paul to take care of him. I asked Nick, I said, no one in his family is going to take care of him. What do we want to do? And he says, well, the only thing we can do is take care of him. You will say, I know you'll take good care of him. That's what I did. He made me power of attorney. Oh, Lord, I didn't know what I was getting myself into. And on March the 3rd, I took him out of the nursing home. They told me that I wouldn't be able to take care of him. Let me tell you, I did take good care of him. I treated him like he was mine. We were good friends. Oh, hell, we was fighting at two Yankees. Nick just walked in and walked right back out. Yeah. Polly and I were like, he was from New York, Wonton, New York, Long Island. And I've been with him to New York. I've been up there. Mohegan Lake is beautiful. Upstate New York. He used to have a good friend, Kenny, his child friend, Kenny. And we would leave here and go and visit him up there. And when Kenny moved to Florida, he had a place in New York and Florida, I would pack up everything I could in the van, and then I rented not a U-Haul. I rented a wheelchair van when we got to Georgia, so he can be easy. I picked his wheelchair that's in the shed, put it in my car. Don't even ask me how I did in the van, and got him down to Georgia. I said, let's rent a car. I'm glad we did, because it was easier on him. Wherever he wanted to go, I drove him. Whatever he wanted, I got him. Whatever he wanted to eat, I gave it to him. I kept him alive for 5 years. Yeah, Paulie was a character. Debbie knows who he is in Florida. Yeah, that was his camp, our camp together. He never put anything in his name. Everything was in my name. He made darn sure of that. Well, being in the VA, now he's paralyzed in the right arm. So when he had his stroke and his heart attack, he was paralyzed in his left leg. And he was just learning how to walk when they amputated his leg. And they wanted to cut it, what was it, above the knee. And he said, hell no. They cut it below the knee. And then he was learning how to walk. And that 1 year, I noticed a change in Paul. And he died October the 7th, 2019. I just about ripped the heater off the wall in the living room. Yeah, Paul and I went lots of places together, and I made sure that he was happy and that I did a good job. And the doctors and nurses said I took very, very good care of him. I even had to give him shots. The VA would teach me, and he had a PICC line. I remember that PICC line from his wrist to the middle of his heart. I had to give him shots, and they taught me how to do it, and I took care of him. Oh boy, stressful, but I did it. I took good care of him. And right before he died, I started working on this room, because he used to tell me Daisy. That's what he called me. I like when people call me Daisy because it reminds me of Paul. And I was working on this room, and I ordered the windows, and in October is when he passed. He never got to see this room. So I have a special corner up there. That's him. He was a Vietnam vet. He was a gunner on a I guess a Huey helicopters. That's what he tells me. Took good care of him. I miss him. Once in a while, I'll cry. But that's normal. We were like this. We were good friends. And then when somebody dies, then everybody comes out of the woodwork. Well, Paulie had nothing in his name. And it was all to us. And his brother, Ronnie, I try to get Paul to make up with his family. And he just didn't want to do that. With his younger brothers, Johnny and Ronnie. I tried. And he had a daughter that didn't want nothing to do with him. But after he moved here, he was totally different. But she didn't want to correspond with him. Oh well, her loss. So Chris is still alive. Billy's still alive. He's in New York. Paulie was the oldest out of all the kids. He was born in 1944, and he died 10/7 of 2019. In my arms. I could talk about it now. I couldn't talk it about. So he's been gone, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24. Going on 6 years? Wow. Feels like yesterday. Yep. I just still see him when I slam that radio down on the counter. Hey, you ponytail man. Yeah, woman. Oh my goodness. I'm just getting off the road driving a truck. Man. And then, before I got off the road, Yeah, before I got off the road, I would go a long way with my radio. He lent me his radio so we could talk to each other. And then he knew I worked nights because my runs were back up. I did know him before I got off the road, yeah, because I had a couple more runs I had to do. I had drove to Texas. See, Darlene, I came to Texas. My runs were down to Parr and Victorian, Dallas, Houston, picking up car parts, delivering whatever I had to deliver. My boss let me drive. And then Paulie, when I did get off the road, he asked me if I would be his beck and call. And I'm like, my what? Beck and call? What the hell's that? And he says, be my escort for my reward VFW. And I said, let me ask Nick. And Nick was working late nights. And he said, yeah, go ahead, no problem. So me and Paul flew down to Texas, San Antonio, Texas. And I helped him get dressed or whatever. And he found out he was tight, very, very tight with his money. And he sort of pissed me off. He said something I didn't like, and I said, I could be back on the airplane here in a bit. I don't need this bullshit. So he calmed down, and I don't know if you ever been to a VFW where they have like hospitality rooms. Every state had a hospitality room, and we went to this one hospitality room. You could just smell the gumbo, and I'm not a hot and spicy person. And by the time I got off the elevator, Paul said, don't eat that. It was too late. My eyes lit up. I had one taste of the gumbo that somebody made, and oh my God, my eyes lit up. Pain, my eyes were on fire. I had tears down my face. My mouth was on fire. My mouth swelled up. And everybody kept shoving bread at me. And I'm like trying to get water. And they're like, no, eat the bread. The bread will take the pain out of your mouth. Oh, my goodness. My goodness, my goodness. Paul says, I can't take you anywhere, can I? Nope. Well, he got his award. We got to tour the Alamo. That was pretty cool. I got pictures of me and him. And it was just nice. It was just, I've never been anywhere like that. And then we came back, and I started driving for Wilbert, and long story short, back and forth. I mean, I've been all over Tennessee driving. And so when you work long 12, 14-hour days, you usually go home. But since I live so far down here on the river, and then, I get home about 10 o'clock, get a couple hours of sleep, get up at 3 and go again. Paul would let me stay at his place. So I told him, I said, okay, this is what I'll do. If you let me stay here, I'll cook for you, and I'll help clean your place or whatever. That was my free board. And we worked it out that way. See, he worked nights. I slept there at his place while he was working nights. And then I'd get up and go over there and get my coffee and whatever at the Shell station across the road. And then Paul would, at the time we were allowed to have radios in our vehicles. So he beefed up my radio. Gosh, I could I'd be at Dickson exit at 163, and I'll be on the other side of Knoxville, and he could still hear me with that radio. Yep. That was good memories. Yep. So Paul was a very good, special friend to me. And I was to him. Right up to the end. So now you know my story, and I'm sticking with it. I think I've known Paulie for over 20 years. Long time. Or more. Yeah, I tell myself, Paulie's up in heaven and driving God crazy. Oh my goodness. What is he doing? And he used to tell stories. Oh my goodness. He was a storyteller. Yeah, that's what I miss. His stories. And then when I brought him home here at my house, in my other sewing room, where the storage room is, we would sit there and watch TV together, and I hated to watch, what was that show he watched all the time? It was a New York show. CIF or CS, some kind of cop show up there in New York. And I'd fall asleep and he'd nudge me, "Are you awake?" "Yeah, I'm awake." Or he always liked Raymond. I think it was Raymond. We used to watch Raymond together. And just little things. And then he'd fall asleep and I would click something. I was just watching that like you sure you were. Yeah. Some of my friends know Paulie, like Ginger, Debbie in Florida, Nancy in California, and Paula Joe over in Montana. Lisa knows them. Debbie knows them. Over Debbie Rogers. The kids know them. Yeah. And before he passed, or before he got real sick, he bought me that long arm and my sewing machine. So he told me in his place he lived, Paul lived in a shack. And I mean a shack. He lived in a trailer before I met him. And it was a nice trailer. But having one arm, it was hard to cut grass and stuff like that. That's when I first met him, down on, oh my God, what was the name of that road down there? I could see it just past the CV shop. I can't think of the name. Plunders, maybe? I'm not sure. But, and then his brother, Ronnie, was good to him then. And we built this shack that he rented, because he rented the CV shop and he rented the house. And we fixed it up, and I told him, if you could put the windows in, I could do everything else. And I did. I got him a living room, a kitchen, a dining room, and a bathroom. And Ronnie did the plumbing, and I did all the walls and everything. And that's where I stayed. And it was nothing to sneeze at. But then when he we were walking around at Christmas time at Tractor Supply, like I said, and he had that the day we came. It was late that night. I left his place, and Sunday came around, and I called him, and he never answered the phone until I told him to break down that door, so they did. But he couldn't stay by himself after having a stroke and a heart attack, and he's paralyzed in the right arm. And none of his family would step up to help him. And I said, oh, hell no. No. Mm-mm. My husband's Navy, and he's Army. And we do what we can do for our veterans. And I helped him. I moved him in here with me. He had a lift. He had a bed. He had an air mattress. I still have it out there. He's got a brand new wheelchair. He's got, they call them, they're like a scooter. I don't have his bed anymore. I had a shower chair for him. I had 2 shower chairs for him. All the supplies that I needed for him. And I got him service connected. He wasn't service connected before. I never took the answer no. And I pushed and I pushed and I pushed. And one day I sent a message over to Marsha Blackburn. I said, you know, she's our senator for Tennessee. I said, here is a person that went to Vietnam, got Agent Orange, came home from Vietnam. They treat him like horrible. Now he has a stroke and a heart attack, and he's paralyzed, and he can't get nothing. I got a letter in the mail the next month saying he was service connected. Ooh, good job, Jen. Good job. And everything opened up for him. Then he got dental. I got everything for him. Now, Nikki is Navy. He is not service connected. 0. He can't do nothing. The only thing that Nick can get is exempt from the hospital. That's it. Because we're sort of low income. But Paulie was service connected, and he got, as soon as you get service connected, Paulie got everything. And the only thing he didn't get was a wheelchair van. I bought him a used wheelchair van. And I think he used it 3 times. And then he passed. And we sold it for somebody else. So Deb, that's how I met Paul. Sorry for the long story. When I talk about him, it just goes on. Just goes on. But them are good memories. I kept them alive for, going to be 6 years. Wow, that's a long time. I wish he was here to this day. Sometimes, I know nobody believes in this or not, but when baby girl was alive, and Missy's Paul's dog, was Paul's dog, even him, sometimes, he'll growl. And I'm thinking, sometimes I wonder if Paul's spirit is still here. Who knows? I don't know. Well, listen, y'all have a good night tonight. I'm sorry I bored you guys, but that's how I met Paul. Yeah. And when he passed, it took me forever. Nobody could touch anything of his stuff. Nobody. Well, Polly was cremated. That's what she did before he moved in. I went and got him cremated. And then the VA, well, I got his plaque and everything. But he wanted to be, his ashes be with his mom in Dickson and his dad. So while he leaves my house and me try to pull off my heater when he left, when they came and got him, at the time it wasn't funny, but the man, the coordinary guy, the black hearse guy came, said, "How would you like to send Polly out the door?" I said, "Well, hell, he came in butt naked. He could leave butt naked." I know it wasn't funny at the time, but I wrapped him up in a sheet. Blue Dog went with him. I got the sheet back and Blue Dog. Oh. But his brothers and sisters were like, "Well, when you can have a service?" I'm like, "Well, you're welcome to go up to Waverly and say your goodbyes to him. I mean, there's nothing I can do. The machine that you cremate a person is broken, and they're waiting to get the part." So they're all hissy at me, and when I got his ashes back, I separated all the bottles for them, and I kept a big one up there, and I put my best friend Fox and him together, and Lucky here and his dog tags are up there, and yeah. So he's buried up in Dickson. Some of his ashes. Oh, I know you're not going to like this, but I put some of his ashes in the backyard with Missy, his own dog. So he's buried back there too. Well, listen, y'all have a good night tonight. I'm dead tired. And Bubba just hanging here with Mama. Bubba, Mr. Bub. He just, "Mom, you're talking too much, huh?" Yeah. I'm just trying to edit my page. That it didn't come up now. All right, I'll see y'all later. Good night, y'all. And I'm sticking to it. It's Jennifer Duck, Daisy Duck. I'll see you tomorrow morning, y'all. I love y'all. Good night.